To begin tonight with the nationwide protest led by the Nigeria Labour Congress over rising insecurity in the country. The NLC had initially planned a protest walk within Abuja, but later made a U-turn, confining the demonstrations to the vicinity around the Labour Party headquarters. News Center's correspondent Joshua Imarai reports.
Members began to gather at the Nigerian Labour Congress headquarters as early as 8 a.m. The national president of the NLC had earlier briefed journalists a few moments earlier ahead of his meeting with the Nigerian Governors Forum, saying that the action has become necessary after several attempts to engage the president on the state of the nation proved abortive.
This protest is to call attention on the seriousness of both financial and fiscal insecurity. And you can see from him even agreeing to talk with us yesterday, he's getting momentum. And as we progress, the awareness and consciousness will be created. So I don't see why, people will try to demarcate themselves.
While the leadership of the Congress were still in consultation with the Governors Forum, members of the NLC took to the streets around the headquarters, marching through adjoining areas, including the Federal Ministry of Finance, before returning. The entire march was accompanied by scores of security operatives, including officers of the Nigerian Police Force, the Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps, and other agencies. Some leaders of the NLC also addressed journalists at the end of the march.
Our leaders, as we are doing our protest here, they are also doing the dialogue here to demand from the state governors, to demand from the local government, to demand from the federal government the need to step up the security of our country.
We have no control on when that meeting will end. So there's no point keeping all of us here forever. Thank you very much for coming. God bless you.
In Abuja, for News Central, I am Joshua Imarai.
And in Lagos, same growing concerns over worsening insecurity have pushed labor unions and civil society groups to the street. Members of the Nigeria Labour Congress, alongside civil society organizations, staged a protest demanding urgent government actions to curb killings, kidnappings, and violent crimes. News Central's Israeli Farouk joined the march.
From the Ikeja on the bridge through Allen Avenue, the message was loud and clear. Nigerians want an end to insecurity. Members of the Nigerian Labour Congress NLC, joined by civil society groups, marched through major roads in Lagos, protesting what they describe as rising cases of violence across the country.
This is a nationwide protest. It's a protest to actually draw the attention of the government, the federal government, the state and the local government, the need to strengthen this security apparatus in this country.
The protesters marched all the way to Lagos State House of Assembly, where they submitted a letter outlining their grievances and calling for stronger security measures nationwide.
We need to show our displeasure to insecurity. Look at most of my people. They are lamenting. They want to go and see their loved one in their villages. They want to go back home. They want to, behave as we normally behaved 20 years ago. But that right has been taken away from them, courtesy of the insincerity of the government. We need government to stand up to its responsibility. Enough of the slumber. Enough of the slumber. Government should wake up. Let the insecurity should die with 2025.
As we move to 2026, we do not want to hear of cases of kidnapping, of banditry, of terrorism in our country. We are demanding today the immediate arrest and prosecution of the 400 terrorism financiers that were arrested by the Buhari administration in 2021.
At the Lagos Assembly complex, lawmakers received the protesters and assured them that their concerns will be communicated to the relevant authorities.
We have your letter, and definitely we're going to present it to the House, to Mr. Speaker. Right Honorable Dr. Modashiru Ajayi Obasa,
and definitely we're going to act on it. All what you have said, we have heard, I will relay back. I can assure you, Mr. President is on top of the security issues.
While the demonstration remained peaceful, protesters insist they will sustain pressure on the government until concrete steps are taken to restore safety across the country.
What remains is what the government will do after today. In Lagos, for News Central, Israel Ifirobo.
Thank you, Israel. The story is not different in Delta State, South Nigeria, as members of the Nigeria Labour Congress, in solidarity with their counterparts nationwide, participated in the protest against insecurity. News Central's correspondent Austin Azu reports that the exercise, which held in Asaba, the state capital, was peaceful. I will bring you that package subsequently, but we can also confirm that in Kogi State, there were protests. The state chapter of the NLC joined the protest, demanding urgent action on insecurity and better protection for workers and citizens. The protest ended at the government house in Lokoja, where labor leaders submitted a letter of demands, warning that development cannot happen without safety. NLC State Chairman Gabriel Amari called for stronger security efforts while acknowledging the state steps so far and urging more community involvement.
We are out here to draw the attention of government across all levels of the primary responsibility of any government to protect and ensure the security of well-being of the citizenry. We cry out, we speak out, and we demand a reversal in the rising wave of insecurity in the country. We demand for justice for Nigerian workers whose losses and dislocation cannot be measurable. We demand for a change in the ugly narrative.
The governor asked me to inform you that he will not betray the NLC. He will ensure he continues to work harmoniously with the union. He also wants me to express his appreciation of the peaceful protest this morning, which is across the nation. We appreciate the deep knowledge of information contained addressing security in the nation, and particularly Kogi State. According to him, we will not relent in our effort. We are investing heavily on human intelligence in the 239 wards in Kogi State. And that is why you are seeing the victory being recorded today in Kogi State. The IG deployed helicopter, I'm sure you will be seeing a lot, the helicopter flying here. The helicopter will be back here in days again. We are dealing with...
Let's take the demonstration in Delta State as covered by Austin Azu.
The NLC in Delta State, in compliance with the national, are on the streets of Asaba protesting against insecurity. And of course, the procession took off from the Labour House, an onward movement through the various roads down to Government House to present their papers before the state governor.
The insecurity in this country is just too much. The most painful part of it was that a general was kidnapped and was killed. The Nigerian government did nothing about it. That's a shame to our country, Nigeria.
Because the insecurity all over is something we cannot take any longer. People no longer go to their farms to produce food for the masses. Children no longer go to school freely. Even we no longer sleep in our homes with our two eyes closed.
At Government House, Asaba, the union's position was presented by the council secretary, Acrobat Inakwore, before the state governor, who was represented by the chief of staff at Government House, Asaba, Johnson Erijo.
We know that Delta State is relatively what? Peaceful. But we cannot say we are accepted. We cannot say we are not being harassed and being kidnapped in our farms. Our future, our children, they can no longer go to school. We want security for our children. We want security in our workplaces. We want security where we are at home.
Responding to their demands, Erupt told the NLC members that their issues would be taken to the governor for consideration and onward transmission to the president to ensure citizens' welfare and security are guaranteed.
So like we have here in Delta State, the government is also working very hard with the federal government to ensure that your lives are secured. All of us. Because if there is no security, if there is no peace, there is no way that we can perform to deliver the dividend of democracy to you people. It is not just sufficient to pay workers. We agreed to secure you people is the responsibility of government.
The NLC, after submitting their grievance, said they will observe to see how the government will take action to ensure that the welfare and security of Nigerians are safeguarded across the country. In Delta for News Central, Austin Azu.
News Central's correspondents across the country all joined in today's protests. And here I have with me Joshua Imarayi, Austin Azu, and Israel Eferobo to speak on their various experience. Let's start with you, Joshua. Give us a quick look, your reflection on your coverage of today's protest in terms of representation and support for NLC.
Well, good evening to you, Felicity. I was live at the national headquarters of the Nigerian Labour Congress. And workers, particularly Nigerian workers under the umbrella and the aegis of the Nigerian Labour Congress, came out en masse today. The Nigerian Labour Congress headquarters in Abuja was filled to the brim, from the gates down to the areas, the adjoining areas of the NLC headquarters, even down to the building. The building is almost, I think, an 11th floor building. And you wouldn't believe that that place was filled with Nigerian workers who were geared up in their red beat that is known for the NLC, and they were ready for the showdown. But unfortunately, the showdown did not last long, as we understood that some of their leaders were in the meeting and they couldn't take the protest the way they wanted to take it. But they made some work, and the work, Nigerians, particularly residents in Abuja, felt the presence of the NLC today from what I saw.
Austin, we saw you in front, charging ahead and telling us what was happening in Delta State. Beyond your coverage, what were the protesters saying to you aside the camera as to why they came out in support of the protest?
Of course, good evening, Felicity. The insecurity in Nigeria, no state in the south, precisely in Delta State, no state is exempted because they are still feeling the brunt of the insecurity. Just about a couple of days ago, we saw how a young man from Kokori was allegedly killed by suspected herdsmen, and these are continue to be on the rise over the past few years. And of course, the anti-open grazing law that was asserted by the governor about 2 years ago has not really been implemented in the state. And these are the issues that the workers are saying that enough is enough, that the governor and the federal government needs to come out with decisive action to deal with these unscrupulous elements committing atrocities in our communities. And farmers can no longer go to their farms. Those things are no longer news to us. And of course, we are in an era where farmers are supposed to be going to the farm at this point in time. That's the season here in the south side in Delta State. But it's very unfortunate that the farmers can no longer go to their farms. And these are part of what triggered most of these protesters today. And of course, the protesters actually made reference to that the governments need to come together, the 36 governors need to come together at a round table and take a decisive action. And they made reference to the support that Donald Trump ought to give to Nigeria, but because of political reasons that has not been achieved. But however, they are equally asking all and sundry to come together to join this push, to put fire on the government at all levels so that they'll be able to deal with this monster, troubling our economy. That's
all right, Israel, put more pressure. That's the consensus. Put more pressure on government to do what is needed. Your coverage showed that that's the intention, but do you see a continuation, especially in light of the turnout and the meeting last night with the president by NLC leadership?
Okay, so thank you so much. Well, yes, indeed. Talking about the presence of the protesters today, they did came in their large numbers and they walked all through Ikeja on the bridge all the way to the Lagos State House of Assembly. And to answer your question, do I see these protesters anyway? Well, I did speak to the head of the NLC here in Lagos State, Ahmed Musa, and he did say that if after today nothing concrete happens, they will continue with the protest and they will put more pressure on the government to ensure that their demand, which is to stop the insecurity in the country, will continue. They will come out in large numbers and will continue with the protest and go ahead to let the government know that this is what they want. And the state chairman of the NLC, who says he did say something today, he said that our workers, those in the NLC, and maybe cut across Nigerians, that people cannot travel to the villages anymore. People cannot spend Christmas with their loved ones. This is a major concern. Not just about the festive season, but the fact that our roads are no longer safe. People are being kidnapped, people are being killed, the insecurity is being rising, and this is the full offensive. And that is why they say if nothing is done, we will continue the protest and put pressure on the government.
Joshua, a quick one. Did they say anything around government's response, especially in light of the information from the NLC president that they have written multiple times to the president with no response until the threat of these protests? Did they say anything in that regard, as in terms of trusting that the government will follow through with whatever they discuss? Austin, if you can hear me, perhaps you can take that question. We don't seem to have Joshua anymore. In terms of the president taking the discussions with NLC seriously, we heard the NLC president say that they have written severally to the president with no response until the threat of this protest. So what was the optimism level that whatever conversations are being had will result in some benefit for Nigerians?
Of course, don't be surprised about this attitude of some of these political leaders. They will actually tell the complainants that we have listened to your demands and we get back to you. Are you surprised to say that these demands are not being given consideration? And oftentimes the people keep repeating this issue and often. So people are tired of these promises not being kept, and hence what they see the next time is demonstration. And that's the language most of the leaders understood. And that's why oftentimes you see that the last resort of those demands ends with protest. And these are clear messages to the government that enough is enough for you to listen to us, for you to hear what we are doing, and for you to know that these are our pains. And as we speak at this point in time, there are some people who are workers who cannot even access their homes. Those who are working are being kidnapped, according to what they said. So these are lots more that trigger their grievances, that if this insecurity is not being addressed, and most of them can no longer stay in their homes, and some of them cannot even come to offices, and this may likely cripple the economy. Hence, they are calling on the government to arrest the situation now. Otherwise, it will get to a time whereby they will all dance for them not to go to work anymore. And hence this protest, according to what some of them told us on behind the camera.
I think it's safe to say, gentlemen of the press, thank you for the coverage of today's protest. I guess we'll see what happens in the coming days. Thank you again. Thank you for staying with us. You're watching Tonight on News Central. A reminder of our top stories. Nigeria Labour Congress leads protests across the country over rising insecurity. House of Representatives consolidates INEC powers in major overhaul of Nigeria's Electoral Act amendment bill. Surviving suspect in Sunday's mass shooting at Bondi Beach charged with 59 offenses, including 15 counts of murder. An atmosphere rich in African culture and celebration marked the 10th anniversary of Moneda, a company that says access to well-managed capital remains critical to Africa's economic growth. Industry leaders and stakeholders gathered in Lagos to reflect on a decade of enterprise, building sustainability and financial inclusion. News Center's Placidia Iwekule reports.
To fashion, Africa's diversity was on full display as Moneda marked 10 years of growth and impact. What began as a single desk has evolved into a financial platform supporting businesses across multiple sectors and countries across the continent. The company says capital, when responsibly managed, has the power to accelerate Africa's development, a principle that has guided its operations over the past decade.
We're very proud of the fact that we've kept integrity and we've kept trust with our investors, with our financiers. I think that's the most important thing.
Impact is a business well thought out. So for Moneda, it's about impact. And that purpose is what has been driving Moneda.
Through deliberate funding structures and long-term partnerships, Moneda says it has remained committed to supporting sustainable enterprise growth.
Our plan after getting our license in Mauritius, a global fund management license, is to build on that mandate. We're going to go out and raise $100 million in our first fund. And that fund is going to primarily be from Africans. So what is a bit unusual is that we're saying categorically that we're not primarily interested in foreign capital. We believe that Africans can, support this fund. The purpose of the fund is African, transformation.
At this point in time, our studies show us clearly that Africa is a place to invest. Africa finance is in Africa, and Africa finance can be utilized properly to be able to develop Africans.
Speakers at the event commended the company for remaining true to its sustainability goals, building trust and maintaining credibility in an increasingly competitive financial landscape.
Over these last 10 years, you have demonstrated capacity, raising over $190 million for various investments, and have expanded to 7 African countries and counting, builds business associates and partnerships across all these countries. Taken together, this is an excellent story. It's a success story. It's an exciting story for a young 10-year-old Nigerian company to have made such progress and such strides within such a short time.
As part of the celebration, Moneda recognized and honored its early enablers, individuals and institutions. The company credits with believing in its vision at inception and supporting its journey from idea to impact.
I would say I'm proud because in 1 year I've gotten this recognition and it means a lot to me.
After a decade of growth, Moneda says its focus remains clear: expanding access to responsible finance while supporting Africa's drive for economic transformation. As the company looks ahead, stakeholders say the challenge will be sustaining impact while scaling across the continent.
President Donald Trump has signed a proclamation further restricting entry to the United States for nationals from countries deemed high risk due to demonstrated persistent and severe deficiencies in screening, vetting, and information sharing that threaten U.S. national security and public safety. Among the 15 additional countries newly subject to partial restrictions is Nigeria. Trump had earlier on October 31 declared Nigeria as a country of particular concern in response to allegations of a Christian genocide in the country. The proclamation continues full restrictions and entry limitations on nationals from the original 12 high-risk countries: Afghanistan, Burma, Chad, Republic of the Congo, Equatorial Guinea, Eritrea, Haiti, Iran, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and Yemen. It also adds full restrictions and entry limitations on 5 additional countries: Burkina Faso, Mali, Niger, South Sudan, and Syria. For this conversation, I have in the studio with me a policy expert, Lekon Shote. Did I get that? Thank you very much for being here with us tonight. I want to start with your viewpoint as a policy analyst. How credible or justified were the concerns raised by the U.S. government at the time, particularly around data sharing and security protocols?
Well, you probably have heard during the Jonathan administration that some military officers from America came to join us. And while they were talking about strategies, before they went and to attack the insurgents, they saw them wearing masks, gas masks and all that, meaning that somebody was leaking information, So it's like you're not too sure of how much you can trust Nigerians when it comes to sharing information between the Americans and our soldiers.
Okay, what response do you think Nigeria, the government, will put up to these current limitations that we'll have to face?
Well, let me flip that and say that why is America doing this at this time? 2 weeks ago, or last week, Riley Moore and some other congressmen were here on a fact-finding. One, they interviewed victims of terrorism. They visited IDP camps. Now, what you call semiotics or symbolism is that they traveled to Benue State, to those places, in armored vehicle.
So are you saying that this restriction may be in part to that visit? Wouldn't it be too quick? They've not sent everyone, have they?
You're supposed to be at the end of this month. At the end of this month, yes. Yeah. Mr. Trump is like a loose cannon. And even while in Nigeria, Riley Moore was already talking about Muslim Fulani terrorists attacking Christians. Don't forget that the places they went to were essentially Christian areas. That is Benue State.
Yeah.
Okay? So where the victims would have been Christians, mostly. Okay? And then you and I know, they gave us a list of names of financiers. What have we done about it? Now, just yesterday, a soldier was killed at a checking point, or fake checking point somewhere in Edo State. While even Riley Moore and his team were in Nigeria, on fact-finding, people were still being killed.
But the fact that they come in doesn't mean much will change immediately, or maybe the bandits or the criminals will suddenly hide because there are American representatives here. It is what it is, our reality, unfortunately. The interpretation being given to it is where the concern is now. So I would want to ask, what would be the likely implication of this renewed restriction for Nigerians in particular?
Well, let's put it this way. The northern part of Nigeria is essentially in the Sahel, okay? Countries surrounding us, apart from Cameroon, are all under restriction. Benin Republic is on partial restriction.
Yes.
Chad and Niger Republic are on full restriction. And don't forget that those countries spread into the AES. Do you understand? Mali, Burkina Faso. So, and the religion, the language, even the skin color, the look of the people of northern Nigeria look like those people. Now, if somebody escapes or comes into Nigeria and poses as if he's in Nigeria and is able to get the Nigerian passport and goes to America, and then becomes a terrorist.
But we do have safeguards, don't we, in terms of issuing...
Wait, what safeguards you have? Listen,
that's what I'm asking you the question. Don't we have safeguard in terms of you should have a birth certificate? If you don't, you have a court declaration.
Okay,
and before the court can give you a declaration...
Let me give you General Muhammadu Buhari. His father is from Niger Republic. He became the head of state. What restrictions do you have? That's one. Two, during the Nigerian Civil War, a lot of the war commanders came from Niger Republic, Chad Republic. They became generals eventually in the Nigerian army. What checks do you have?
I really wish we had time.
When people can walk.
I've just been told we're out of time for this conversation. But let's see what happens. I mean, Nigerians will see the
hoping that this would be like a shot in the arm, and for the government to take these things. So, you know, the House of Representatives is talking about a special tribunal to try terrorists. I hope we can quickly do something about that.
I hope so too.
Maybe then convince America and Britain and the other countries who will come out later invest, who will probably withdraw their investment in Nigeria if we continue to go the way we are going like this.
Let's hope not. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you, Felicity.
Still ahead tonight, South Africa expels Kenyans working at asylum center. Why? We'll tell you when we return. Glad you're still with us. The House of Representatives on Wednesday took steps towards a major overhaul of Nigeria's electoral framework as it approved and amended several key provisions of the Electoral Act Amendment Bill. The move was aimed at strengthening the powers of the Independent National Electoral Commission, entrenching electoral procedures, and addressing weaknesses exposed during recent elections. At a plenary presided over by Deputy Speaker Benjamin Kalu, lawmakers undertook a clause-by-clause consideration of the bill, adopting wide-ranging amendments designed to enhance transparency, improve the conduct of elections, and reduce post-election litigation. Some indigents of Lamode, local government area of Adamawa State, have taken to the National Assembly to protest the alleged killing of women and children by personnel of the Nigerian Army during a peaceful demonstration over a communal clash. The protesters accuse security personnel of killing 9 unarmed women during a peaceful protest and a 10-year-old, and are calling for justice and compensation to affected families. Carrying different placards expressing their displeasure, the protesters are calling on the federal government and security agencies to launch an independent investigation and ensure that those responsible are held accountable.
See, we are aggrieved. We are sad. We are devastated. We will not allow this matter to be swept under the carpet. We are here today to demand accountability and justice. We are demanding for adequate compensation for the victims.
We are calling on the government to constitute an independent, unbiased, and transparent judiciary court of inquiry for the perpetrators of this act to be brought to book.
It is with so much pain that we stand here and we plead and ask that justice be upheld in this matter.
Let's now tell you that South Africa has arrested and expelled 7 Kenyan nationals accused of working illegally on a US-backed program offering refugee status to white Afrikaners. The Home Affairs Ministry said the Kenyans were employed to help process applications for resettlement to the United States despite entering the country on tourist visas. Authorities raided an application center after receiving intelligence about the operation. The refugee initiative was launched earlier this year by President Donald Trump's administration, which claimed Africans face discrimination in South Africa, an assertion strongly rejected by Pretoria. And one of our top stories tonight, a man accused of carrying out the deadly Bondi Beach attack has been charged with dozens of serious offences as families begin burying the victims. New South Wales police say 24-year-old Naveed Akram now faces 59 charges, including 15 counts of murder and 1 count of committing a terrorist act following Sunday's mass shooting at a Jewish Hanukkah celebration on Sydney's Bondi Beach. Akram was critically wounded during the incident and remains under police guard in hospital. His father, Sajid Akram, was killed in a shootout with officers at the scene. Tonight returns with business, sport, and entertainment news. To stay with us.
This segment is brought to you by MoneyPoint.
Talking business now, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has asked the Senate to confirm new chief executives for Nigeria's 2 key petroleum regulators following the resignation of their current heads. Engineer Farouk Ahmed of the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority and Benga Kumalafe of the Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission, both appointed in 2021 under the Petroleum Industry Act, have stepped down. To replace them, the president nominated Orishemeyiwa Amanuresewo Eseyan as CEO of NUPRC and engineer Seidu Aliu Mohammed as CEO of NMDPRA. Eseyan brings over 3 decades of upstream experience from the NNPC, while Mohammed is a veteran engineer with extensive leadership across Nigeria's gas, refining and pipeline projects. Senate approval is awaited. We also tell you that Dangote Refinery's decision to cut petrol prices to 699 naira per litre was expected to ease transport fares and reduce food costs, but the relief is yet to reach consumers. Despite lower depot prices, pump prices and everyday expenses remain stubbornly high, raising questions about price transmission in Nigeria's fuel market. Some oil marketers have openly resisted the reduction, preferring to maintain their higher margins rather than pass savings onto households. So earlier on today's Business Edge, Temitope Kolade, Associate Director, Oil and Gas and Power Practice at Anderson, Nigeria, says many factors are to blame for price of goods not reducing.
Costs. And when you then say transport costs, there are a couple of other things that have hiked transport costs. And we live in a country where very many people also would say that whatever goes up doesn't necessarily come down, especially when it comes to costs, right? But in terms of food costs, I would think that some food have also dropped in terms of costs. But then there are other structural issues that
Now, when we return, we'll bring you stock market reports. 8,191.84% or points, up by 3.56%, while market capitalization expanded to 45.52 trillion naira. Now, the session reflected aggressive buying interest across major sectors that I'll be sharing with you, of course, pointing to a clear risk-on mood among investors. We now look at sectoral performance, started with the banking sector that actually surged 8.57%, leading the market. A rally right there as heavy demand returned to tier 1 stocks such as GTCO and Zenith Bank. We see insurance follow with a close 7.21% jump, of course, supported by sharp advances in counters like ICO and Custodial. Well, oil and gas was the loner in terms of a drop, 2.35%, pressured by sell-offs, and we see consumer goods edge up 3.98%, and industrial goods also 2.53%, driven by strong interest in cement majors, including Dangote Cement. That's it on business. I am Likon Onobanjo.
This segment is brought to you by MoneyPoint.
Hello and welcome to sports. Former Super Eagles captain Ahmed Musa has announced his retirement from international football, ending a 15-year career with Nigeria. The decision closes the chapter on one of the most remarkable careers in national team history. Musa made his senior debut in 2010 at the age of 17 in a 2012 Africa Cup of Nations qualifier against Madagascar and went on to earn a record 111 caps, scoring 16 goals. The lightning-quick winger played a key role in Nigeria's 2013 Africa Cup of Nations triumph and remains the country's highest goal scorer at the FIFA World Cup with 4 goals in 2 tournaments. He started his professional career with lower division side Youth FC of Jos and went on to star for 7 clubs in 6 countries, including Kano Pillars, CSK Moscow, Leicester City, and Saudi side Al Nassr. Nigeria Super Eagles camp ahead of the 2025 Africa Cup of Nations in Morocco has increased to 27 players following the arrival of winger Victor Moses Simon in Cairo on Wednesday. The team opened camp on Sunday at the Renaissance Hotel as preparations intensified for the tournament. All invited players in camp are training fully under supervision of the technical crew. Striker Victor Osimhen is still expected to join the squad after completing club duties. The Super Eagles are expected to leave Cairo for their base in the Moroccan city of Fez the next few days ahead of the opening Group C match against Tanzania on the 23rd of December. Meanwhile, FIFA has announced a major increase in World Cup prize money, with the winners of the 2026 tournament set to earn $50 million. The total prize money will rise to $655 million, almost 50% higher than the $40 million share. The $440 million shared at the 2022 World Cup in Qatar. The expanded payout reflects the new 48-team format, up from 32 teams previously. The tournament will be hosted by the United States, Mexico and Canada from June the 11th to July the 19th. 2026 runners-up will receive $33 million, while the third-place team will earn $29 million and losing semi-finalists will get $27 million. Teams exiting the group stage will receive $9 million, and all participating nations will all earn $1.5 million to support preparation costs.
Very important council meeting here today in Doha, where we discussed many points. First decision taken, the prize money for the FIFA World Cup 2026. A massive increase, 50% more for all the member associations, minimum of 9 million for the participants.
And that's all we have on sports tonight. Entertainment is up next with Edewo.
And in entertainment, now the Christian Association of Nigeria, CAN, has confirmed the title of the new film, the title of the new film, A Very Dirty Christmas, calling it offensive and disrespectful to the Christian faith. Now, CAN urges that linking the word dirty with Christmas undermines the season's sacred meaning, which symbolizes purity, peace, and the birth of Jesus Christ. While acknowledging creative freedom, CAN insists such freedom must be exercised responsibly in a religiously diverse country. The association questioned how the title passed regulatory approval and urged the Nigerian Film and Video Censors Board to explain. Now, CAN also called on the producer, Iniedo, to reconsider the title, apologize, and ensure religious symbols are treated with dignity. Felicity, do you have anything to say to this? I see you have a smile on your face.
I don't know. I really don't know what to think. They acknowledge that there is creative license.
Yes.
But then the name is already, I'm sure probably they considered the controversy that will go along with the name before they chose it. Who knows?
Okay, maybe that's why she chose that name in the first place.
Yeah.
Well, that's all we have on entertainment for you guys tonight.
And that's our offering tonight. As always, we'll appreciate your feedback and your eyewitness reports. Do share them using the number on your screen. You can follow us on all socials at News Central TV. You can watch live on DSTV channel 422, GoTV channel 23, Star Times Channel 274, Avo TV, and on YouTube. Thank you for watching. Good night.